Hello, my name is Jason J. Rock Houston, and this is for Categories TV. And as you can all see, our special guest today is legendary Quiet Riot bassist Rudy Sarzo. Now, Rudy, you got a long list of credits besides Quiet Riot. People obviously know you from Ozzy, Whitesnake, but Guess Who, Blue Oyster Cult, and that's just to name a few. Yeah. And so, but the big news, of course, is last year you returned to Quiet Riot. Let's talk a little bit about that decision, because of course you're returning without Kevin and Frankie. So, what was that decision-making process like?
Yeah, actually, I returned at the request of Frankie Banali.
Yes.
So I don't know if you ever watched
The movie, yes, yes.
there's the movie, yeah, the documentary where there's the scene where I'm actually talking to Frankie and advising him that if he doesn't put back together Quiet Riot, uh, nobody's going to really celebrate the memory of his friend, Kevin, which is what kept him. It was the pain of losing Kevin that kept him from jumping into keeping the band going.
Yeah.
But it's if you don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. So I took my own advice.
There you go. And I think the reason fans have been so accepting of that is because it kind of reminds me of Leonard Skinner, where Gary Rossum is the only original member. It's more than just a band at this point. It's kind of you guys that are still around doing the Quiet Riot band. You're kind of waving the Quiet Riot flag and keeping the legacy going. I think that's why fans are so accepting of what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I'm very clear about my motivation to do it, which is to celebrate the legacy of Quiet Riot. That with me, it dates back to the 70s when I first joined the band, 1978, the Randy Rhoads era, and also the memory of Frankie Banali, Kevin Dubrow, and Randy Rhoads. But I would also add that any band that has been around for 40 years
Sure.
plus, like Quiet Riot, or even if you go back to the Randy Rhoads era of the band, 40, with me, 45 years,
Yeah.
There's a sense of celebration
Yes,
at the
yes.
core of why people come out to watch the band perform. You know, I've seen the Stones many times, and what it means to me is to reconnect with the first time I heard the Stones
Oh, sure.
during the British invasion. So it is a celebration of our own personal journey,
Yeah,
not
sure.
just the musicians on stage, but the people in attendance.
Sure, sure. I mean, Alex Grossi himself's been in Quiet Riot close to 20 years now, maybe a little more. And
Yeah,
so
20 years, 20
yeah.
years. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
let's talk about the new track, "Can't Hold On." I think
Mhm.
again, fans have been responding greatly to that, not because it's just a great song, but I think being that it's such an older track that Alex kind of discovered on his iPod, um, and then you get to come in and add your bass track to it. It makes it that much more special. And you know, because Kevin and Frankie are no longer here, you watch the video. It's a
Mhm.
beautiful tribute to both of them, and I think that
Mhm.
in my opinion, the song's taken on a new kind of life and maybe what it was originally intended for.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, once you attach such a powerful video, the message, the real life things that were going on that video, like such as Frankie going through his journey with pancreatic cancer, the bravery, the optimism,
Yeah,
you know, all of that. It's to be captured into a video. So the music becomes the soundtrack to this
oh, sure.
visual message.
And the beautiful thing about the video and the song itself, I mean,
Mhm.
when Kevin wrote that song, he could have had no idea that it was going to be released like this. And again, if you listen to the words of his song, you'd almost think it was, but obviously it wasn't written about Frankie or Kevin no longer being here. But you listen to the words and it almost sounds like it just gives it a new life. I can't really put it into words how prolific the lyrics are.
Yeah, it's life is a mystery. I cannot. Yeah, I agree with you. It does. It does. It has almost like a prophetic feel to it lyrically.
Yeah.
But God
Almost kind
works
of
in
like maybe
mysterious
Kevin
ways. Yeah.
knew his time was going to be short. Who knows? I mean, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's a beautiful song. And talk about the process of adding your bass track. I mean, was it kind of like the ghost in the room? You know, they're not there, but you're kind of adding your beautiful bass part to it.
Oh, absolutely. I've been I met Frankie Banali in 1972,
Yeah,
November 18th, and he was my first drummer that I play with that taught me, or we actually worked on becoming a rhythm section. He taught me the meaning of that. I
yeah,
didn't even look at it, up until that point, I was just basically playing parties and playing clubs in South Florida. And Frankie was in a more advanced circuit, which means
yeah.
that he had been opening his band, which is when I first saw him the night before I met him. His band was opening up for David Bowie
Oh, wow.
at, at Pirates World. And I was super impressed. That's how I got to meet him because I
Yeah.
was super impressed by his playing. And then the next day, it was my birthday, and I happened to be hanging at this club where all the local musicians hung out. And somebody said, "Hey, that's one of the guys that opened up last night for Bowie." So I made it, just dashed over to tell him how impressed I was
Wow.
by what I saw, but especially his drummer. I thought he was the bass player because I
Okay.
was in the cheap seats all the way in
Yeah.
the back, and so he smiled at me, shook my hand, says, "Hi, I'm the drummer. I'm Frankie," and we just hit it off and started playing immediately.
And let me ask you,
And
you
yeah,
know, you were obviously in Quiet Riot before Frankie joined because he didn't join up until 1980. So I'm assuming you played a role in getting Frankie in the band. Is that true?
yes and no.
Okay.
I'll tell you yes because right before Randy left to join Ozzy, we brought in Frankie to because I had mentioned something about my discontent with the previous drummer in the band,
Uh,
and that we could use a
somebody new.
better level drummer. And of course, what I had in mind was Frankie because for since 1972, and this is 1979, for 7 years, and had been living together
Yeah.
in LA and trying to stay together as a rhythm section. So when it came time to like really say, well, what else can we fix in the band? Because we were just banging our heads against the wall trying
Yeah.
to get a record deal. And we thought, well, maybe it's the drummer. Okay, well, I know this drummer, so I brought him in to audition for Quiet Riot, and Frankie really did not want to be at the audition, so he played mediocre, and
Yeah. Wow.
so that was passed down. But he played well enough and uniquely enough. So when Randy got together with Dana Strum and Ozzy to do some rehearsals in LA before they left for England,
Uh-huh.
uh, Randy mentioned Frankie to bring Frankie in.
Oh,
So
wow.
Frankie did those rehearsals with
Amazing.
them. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
And so
Wow.
definitely he left an impression on Randy enough to recommend him
Yeah.
for what Ozzy was putting together at the time.
Oh, wow.
You know.
And of course,
So,
you know, yeah, wow. You guys are
yeah, so
celebrating, of course, 40 years of mental health. And another thing I want
that's
to ask
right.
is because, again, Slick Black Cadillac, for people don't realize, that was on one of the earlier Quiet Riot albums. And you guys were at least playing that in the set back in the 70s, weren't you?
Yeah, and that was the only song that made the transition from the Randy Rhoads era to
The mental
the
health.
Metal Health era.
Yeah.
Kevin wrote that song.
I always love that song. Yeah, I think it's.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And another thing I want to ask you about, I know that you recently took part in, was the Metal Hall of Fame. And I recently interviewed our mutual friend Keith St. John, and he told me to ask you about that the fact that you had a previous band with Bob James, the former Montrose singer who replaced Sammy, called Private Army. I was never aware of that. Are you there, Rudy? Okay.
Here, you
Okay.
hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you now. Anyways,
Okay. Yeah, yeah. No, I was saying, yeah, Private Army. Yeah, that was Pete Kavita on guitars, who became the second bass player in Cheap Trick. He
okay, yeah,
replaced Tom Peterson for a little bit, and Bob James on vocals and Frankie Banali on drums, and that was our attempt to be a new wave band, and we fell miserably.
Did you guys ever record anything, play any live shows, or just?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
No live shows. We did record. Actually, we did the first version of there's a Cheap Trick song that when Pete joined the band, they were Cheap Trick was working on the soundtrack of the movie Heavy Metal.
Heavy Metal, yes, yes. Okay.
And there's a song called Reach Out and Take It.
Yeah.
Well, we did the original version of the song, and it was pretty close to what the final outcome was.
Yeah. And so, do you guys have any demos that like you think would ever see the light of day, or probably not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, because back in the day, we traveled very light. As a starving musician, you did not. At least I did not carry a whole bunch of stuff with me because I had enough garbage with enough stuff. So what would happen is I went from place to place. I didn't have a storage place, to store stuff. Nowadays, you can store your whole life on an iPhone.
Yeah, that's amazing.
45 years ago, that was not the case.
Yeah, I mean, again, you look at the fact that Alex Grossi found this lost track, "Can't Hold On." I mean, and you guys have been working on new music, is that right? With Quiet Riot, there's plans for future album.
Well, actually, what happened was when I came back, Alex and we started talking about future possible releases music wise. And we were just curious about each other, what we had in our catalog. So I looked through my stuff, and then when he looked through his stuff, that's when he bumped into that. Wait a minute, I got this song that I forgot all about. And there it was. Yeah.
Well, and are there any Quiet Riot demos from your time with the band previously that have never been released, or do you know who would have those?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
If they would have been already released, unless Frankie's widow, wife, Regina finds something in a box that has been in storage, just like that. So everybody forgot about, but I really doubt it.
Yeah, but do you think the current lineup will record any new music, like an EP or an album?
Yes, we have, but it's not. It's with Frankie's drums on it.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. There's a couple of songs that are actually
being worked
waiting to be released, and we're just taking one at a time. Right now, we're concentrating on "I Can't Hold On." Mm-hmm. Because it's such a powerful song, and tribute to Kevin and Frankie.
And I'm assuming you guys will be playing that live once you start doing the Metal Health 40 tour.
Yeah, we've been talking about adding it to our set list. So first week of March, we head out, and we're going to give it a shot at soundcheck, see what it sounds like.
That's fun. So are you living in LA still? Are you in Vegas, or where are you at today?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. And so, like I said, you're one of those guys. You've been very, active, obviously, in your musical career, and I think it's great that you're one of those players that you could play with a Guess Who or a Blue Oyster Cult, and there's a lot of people that can't do that. I guess you could almost say you're a Renaissance man or a journeyman.
A journeyman. I don't know, but I mean, my whole life is a journey, and I have been very blessed to have played with some of my heroes.
There you go. And And who were some of your heroes as far as growing up? Your guys that made you want to pick up the bass?
Well, when I say I play with some of my heroes, I was talking about, let's say, Ozzy or
I got you,
or Ronnie James Dio, guys that or Cordell, guys that I grew up listening to their music and inspired by their records, when I was a struggling musician, and here I am playing with them.
Yeah.
So that's what I meant.
In fact, I seen a recent interview. I forget where it was you did, and you were talking about you were amazed that a lot more people don't ask you about your time with Dio, but I got to tell people if they haven't had a chance to see that Dio movie, Dreamers Never Die, it's a beautiful movie. And I love the fact that they show all parts of his career all the way back to like even Ronnie and the Prophets, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that was an amazing experience playing with Ronnie. Yeah.
Yeah, and I hear nothing but kind things about Ronnie. People tell me, he was such a kind man. I mean, I heard some story where, Ronnie was going on the tour bus and they just finished a great concert somewhere, and this one guy was left in the parking lot, and he went told the bus driver, "Hey, let's see where that guy needs to go if he needs a ride." Um, and I remember seeing him on the last Heaven and Hell tour. I mean, just amazing powerhouse vocalist, of course. It's amazing, little tiny guy, but man, he had a powerhouse of a voice.
Oh yeah. I mean, I could sit here and talk for hours about Ronnie, and but yeah, the best thing you could do, anybody can do if you're really interested in Ronnie James Dio and what he was like, not only as a musician,
Yeah.
but also as a human being. Just watch the documentary. It's all in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's very. I love the way they did the movie. I hope it'll come out on DVD or something, because I'd love to have it for my collection. But yeah. So are you working on anything else, Rudy, or is Quiet Riot your obviously your main? That's your returning home, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I mean, because I'm old fashioned,
Hmm.
and I believe that if especially with myself, or being a member in the band from 1978, and then coming back and being in the mental health version of the band, founding member, somebody who signed a record deal, and
I mean,
you know
I mean, it makes sense for you to return to the band because, like you said, you're part of that classic era. But I
mhm.
imagine after return to the band 18 years later, probably unplaying a lot of this Quiet Riot material, until you return to the band. What you able to get right into it? What were those rehearsals like? Was it like old, like you said, going home, just I know this stuff already.
Yeah. Well, we only had one rehearsal, and then we just started touring. But the problem was that it was like between, like, because it was at the beginning of 2021. It wasn't until 22 that we started on a roll, that we got
Yeah,
on a roll. Before that, it was actually the last 3 or 4 shows that had been booked at the end of 2021. So they were like really, like every 6 weeks we would do a show, and I was trying to find the sound that
yeah.
really suited what was in my head, because my consciousness about Quiet Riot dates back to 70s
Oh, sure.
sounding music, and
Sure.
and some early 80s and things like that. Not the modern bass tones,
Yeah.
And so I really had to find the right combination, and I nailed it. Nailed it halfway through last year.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'm not sure how well you knew Jizzy, but what's it been like working with him and having him in the band?
It's fantastic. He comes from the Census Strip, the
Love, hate,
same
yeah,
place where Quiet Riot comes from. So he drank from the same well,
yeah,
and we're in tune, we're in
yeah.
sync
I mean, and
completely.
anybody that's watched the movie, I think the interesting thing, that at least I'm left with is they sure, they sure went through the long process of, about at least 6 or 7 singers before they, were with Jizzy, and he was there previously before. And I understand Kevin kind of told Frank, if anything ever happens to me, I think, Jizzy like my choice. And I think there's a reason that, since Kevin's death, he's been kind of the one mainstay because I mean, he can obviously deliver the goods, as they say.
Yeah, Kevin was a fan of love hate for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, yeah, he had a lot of respect for Jizzy. Yeah.
yeah. And so,
Mhm.
so when does the tour kick off? If you guys are kind of doing some sporadic shows, but the main tour, from what I understand, kicks off in March. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, we've been on the Chris Jericho cruise. We were just there a couple of weekends ago, and before that we did a festival down in Key West,
Hmm.
Rock Island,
Oh wow, that's fun.
And but you know, we kick it off with the string of dates beginning of March.
Interesting, interesting. And so, have you played on any of those cruises before, or was that your first time?
Yeah, I've done a rock cruise before, and then I did a couple of more of with the Guess Who
Yeah.
that
Oh,
were more of the classic rock rather
uh-huh.
than metal cruises. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, getting back to I Can't Hold On, I think the amazing thing to me is really, and tell me if you're equally surprised the way the fans have reacted. I mean, I was just looking on the internet today for, doing this, and it just has been charting all over the place. And and I don't know if that's the first time that's happened, maybe since the mental health days, but I mean, I think that's a sign that fans are loving what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I mean, because there's really no major record label. I mean, you know, major
Yeah,
record labels are
yeah,
not interested in you know, in a band that's been around for over 40
sure.
years and so on. You know, they're more interested in the what's happening with the young artists,
Yeah.
you know, nowadays.
I mean, that's the interesting thing to me, yeah, about the music
But
industry. I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, but it's actually it's to the power of the video
Yeah,
promoting the song
yeah,
and the fact that radio has picked it up,
yeah.
you know, so that is pretty amazing, you know,
See, yeah,
really is.
what's so amazing about it to me is, back in the day, especially around '83 when mental health first came out, you guys did have kind of MTV and that behind you, and but MTV really doesn't exist anymore, and the fact that this is so homegrown because of the fans, just on the internet, people are finding out about it. The radio stations are picking up. It is really kind of a homegrown thing, I think, because of the fans.
Yeah, and I think it's also the subject matter, you know,
Yeah,
unfortunately most of us have been touched somehow by by a tragedy, you know,
sure.
having to deal with cancer or any other disease that you know that we humans, you know, even COVID
I mean,
lately,
yeah, I
you
mean,
know.
yeah, even look at Eddie
So
Van Halen. Apparently, he fought his cancer battle. I mean, 20 years.
mhm,
I mean, that's one of the longest people. And Frankie, I know, was supposed to
yeah,
be just given a couple of months, and he lasted a little over a year. So,
yeah, and even Ronnie James Dio, you know, and so this is something that you know when I talk to people, they're touched by it because everybody has a story.
yeah.
Unfortunately, you know, they can relate to it. You
And,
know,
and I think it was very, very opening. Frankie being very opening, well, allowing that footage to be shot. Not that he allowed it, but you know what I mean. A lot of people wouldn't have been that open. It's a private matter, and I think he was just the kind of guy, like you said, that well, maybe me shooting footage like this, it'll help other people, make people more aware of this type of cancer.
yeah, you know, I think it was that, and also Regina, Frankie's wife, the fact that she did the documentary.
Yeah,
She was the director of the Now You're Here, There's No Way Back, Quiet Riot documentary. And so it's her nature to catalog
yeah,
reality, you know, as a documentarian. And I'm very glad that she did because
yeah,
it's now we
I,
have this message and this footage, you know, as a constant reminder.
and I think too, it's pretty cool that you kind of gave Freddie that advice, as you were saying at the top of the interview today, that hey, if you want Quiet Riot to be celebrated, you should carry the band. And then once I understand, once he knew he was ill, he could have obviously made the decision. Okay, well, we're going to pack up Quiet Riot, but for the sole reason that I understand he wanted to allow the other guys to continue to work in spite of his illness. I think that just shows you kind of a top notch guy he was.
Yeah, yeah. Frankie, incredibly special human
Yeah,
being and musician.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And and I don't want to I don't want to get negative or anything. But I was curious because ever since you returned to Quiet Riot, one thing I've enjoyed is seeing you obviously celebrating the history of Quiet Riot, being proud to be back in the band. Um, I know that over the years, you and Kevin always didn't get along, but I was just curious if you ever got a chance to see him before he passed, or I don't know if you want to get into that or not.
No, I didn't have the chance to do that. And
And the only reason I bring it
you
up,
know,
Rudy, is I think it's cool that you correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems anytime I seen you talk about Quiet Riot, or even to me today about Kevin, um, I think it's kind of nice, in spite of whatever differences you guys had, that you seem to have a real appreciation of of the time you guys, this is the music we made, this is the band we were both part of, and I like that spirit.
yeah, it's the same appreciation that I had whether we were uh talking to each other or not.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
appreciation remained the same.
yeah.
We just
And,
we
and I
just
guess
we just didn't happen to be talking.
I guess that's again. I'm not trying to be negative. I think my point here is I think it's nice that um, even though he's no longer here, that you have these positive memories of him, or like even when you hear a song like "I Can't Hold On," like I said, he
Mhm.
obviously wrote it about something different, but the song has taken a new life on its own,
Mhm.
and it means.
Well,
I mean, yeah,
I truly believe that when people pass,
yeah,
we have choices. We can choose to dwell on the good things
yeah,
about the
yeah,
relationship, or we can dwell on the total negative.
yeah.
And my choice is always go with the positive.
Well, I just want to commend you for that and say thumbs up, because I think that's the way to go. And why would you not want to go that way when Quiet Riot as a band, as a unit, means so much to the fans and so many people.
Yeah, but it's such an easy choice to do either
Yeah,
that I
yeah,
don't think it's even something that I think about.
yeah.
Yeah, I just
I think that's the beauty. That's your nature. Like you said. Probably that the attitude I'm getting is um, I'd rather remember the good, because Quiet Riot probably means so much to you yourself. And there's probably more good memories than there are bad
yeah.
memories.
Yeah. Yeah. The success of Quiet Riot was due to the good.
Yeah, yeah,
And if we're going to celebrate the success of the band,
yeah.
the legacy, only good memories come from that.
That's great. That's great. Um, Anything else, Rudy, you'd like to say before we wrap it up today?
Yeah, just inviting everybody to come down and celebrate with us 40 years of mental health
I don't know. So, in regards to
tour
that,
with
real quick,
Quiet Riot.
will you guys primarily be doing the whole album like in its entirety? You be playing kind of all the hits?
I Well, we've been doing that all
Yeah,
along, and so yes, expect that. And we're working on including "Can Hold On." I
yeah,
mean, and then again, it depends on the bill. Like
yeah,
if we're headlining, we have enough time to play everything we
yeah, yeah.
want. But if we're not, if we're special guests, we're given only so much time to be on stage,
Yeah.
and we have to make choices. Yeah.
And you guys have plans to take it to Europe and other parts of the world?
Yeah, we just got a date where we're headlining a
Yeah,
festival in England in March next year.
yeah.
And we're going to be hopefully putting some other dates along that. And, uh, you know,
Okay.
since we're on that side,
Yeah,
on
yeah,
that side of the ocean, of the Atlantic Ocean, we might as well take advantage of being there and do some other shows around in Europe and
yeah.
UK and so on.
Well, Rudy, I want to thank you once again taking time out of your busy Saturday to do this. I really appreciate it. You can tell I'm lifelong Quiet Riot fan. I'm glad to have you guys back, especially you back in the band. And I support anything you guys do. And the interview we just did is going to be posted within the next week. Feel free to share it. But if you enjoyed this today, I welcome you back anytime, my friend.
Thank you so much, Jay. Thank you
Take
so
care.
much.
Bye.
God bless. Bye bye.